Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Hopes Motivation with Sibusiso. Today it's my great pleasure to introduce you all to professional bodybuilder Sibusiso Kotelo. Sibs, thank you so much for being on this interview with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, brother.
Thanks, man. I appreciate your time and hopefully can motivate a lot of people. I've been following your journey for quite some time and I'm a big fan of yours. My sister's a very big fan of yours as well.
Thank you so much.
And you're just such a humble and inspiring person. Could you please give us a bit of a background of where you came from? What was your journey to becoming a professional bodybuilder, as well as the specific obstacles you faced?
Yeah. So it's been a long journey, bro. I'm born and bred in Durban, first things first. A lot of people don't know this because I've been in Joburg for that long. I moved to Joburg in 2015, actually. And we started the journey with Jack. And it was, getting the pro card was a long-term journey, or rather a long-term achievement that we wanted to get. The fact that it happened that quickly also caught us by surprise, but at the same time, we were putting in the work. Look, my story is a very, I don't want to make it sound cliche, but it's one of those cliche stories. I was in Durban, 2014, 2015, met up with Jack, came to Joburg. I had a full tank of petrol and 152 rand in my bank accounts. That's all I had. And I got to Joburg and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make this thing work. For about a month and a half, I slept in my car, no one knew. So we actually had the old gym right before we came to this one. And it had a basement, right? So I strategically parked my car in the basement so that when everyone leaves, it looks like I'm going to my car to driving. And I see that everyone is left and it's, chill with. That happened for about a month and a half before I started finding my feet, getting everything together. And it's been a roller coaster because even though I got my first apartment, it's not like you're moving into first apartments, now you got furniture and food.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember I was sponsored by USM, and at the time, now I've got a place to sleep without a bed because I'm sleeping on the floor. And here I am supplementing on just supplements, right? I'm eating supplements throughout the day. So in the morning, I'd have like a whey protein. And then if I'm lucky, the boys will be like, hey, let's grab a sandwich. That'll be probably my only meal I'd have during the day. And then at night, I'll have like a casein protein, you know what I mean? So that went on for about another month and a half. And again, Brutes, I'm not saying this because I'm playing victim, you know what I mean? But it's because I understand where I come from, you know what I mean? And I understand, the journey that it took me to get here. And with every subsequent year comes a new obstacle that you gotta get over, and it even gets to such a minute perspective where even at now this professional level, there's certain things where I'll tell someone that it's an obstacle, but in hindsight they can't see it because, for example, eating, right? Eating something like, dude, like how hard can be, eat and don't eat. But then you get a diet and you have about 8,000 calories, and now you gotta prioritize your time between work, just being a normal human being and now having to do meals because now eating for me is no longer, a perspective of I just got to get the meal in. It's not work, right? Because I can't go to bed without me having finishing those 8 or 7,000 calories. So now that also became my new obstacle because now I'm trying to grow. Because now I got my pro card 2018 and now I'm trying to, play with the big boys. So now it's about the growth perspective. So it's been a journey, bro, and it's been a humbling journey at that. And look, I wouldn't take anything away from it because, as I said, it's the journey that actually builds the character. The it's not necessarily where you get it from. When I got my pro card, it was beautiful, but I had to look back and be like, dude, it actually took me some time to get here, right? Yeah. And it built the character for me to be able to stand on stage and be like, okay, cool. One milestone down, a few more to go.
It's such an amazing story, just to show that, you know what, no matter what circumstances you're going through in life, no matter what adversity you are facing, that it's not the end of the road for you if, you know, you really put a plan together and you really have that burning desire that you can make anything happen. So to all the viewers out there as well, as you've just heard with Sibusiso, it's such an inspiring and motivational story that you guys don't need to give up. You know, even if you're facing those difficult situations, if you put your mind to it, you can achieve anything, guys. So Sibs, what advice can you give to the viewers out there who are going through quote unquote difficult times at the moment or obstacles where they think it's the end of the road?
So one of my mentors actually is a guy by the name of Sibusiso, right? And he's a very close friend of mine. And over the years, I bounce a lot of ideas with him, and I get a lot of wisdom. And there's certain thoughts that have stemmed out of our conversations that have now sustained me, and I think will sustain me for the rest of my life. I'm 29 now, so I'm not young anymore. And, it feels like these are the gemstones that I'm held out to in order to be able to, go forward. So the first thing I'll say, and it sounds cliche, but just keep on keeping on, bro. And it sounds cliche because that's advice everyone will tell you. Everyone, and I know why it sounds cliche, because it's also taken from someone that has been discouraged, okay? Yeah. It sounds very discouraging, and it sounds the person giving you advice, it seems like they're standing on a pedestal and they're like, it's gonna get better, right? Yeah. But it does, right? And it's having to have the mentality of getting over yourself, and I mean that very diplomatically, but getting over yourself and realizing that if this is rock bottom, the only way I can go from here now is up, right? And there's another term that has been coined by Jack Lotter that says that adversity has built more character and champions than anything else. And the only difference in that statement to make it true is your mentality while you're going through the process, okay? Because a lot of people face adversity, but not everyone becomes a champion. It's about how you analyze the situation, look at it from hindsight, and keep going. Now, another thing that, as I touched on Vusi, that he actually once said to me, he said to me, winners don't need encouragement, they need discipline. And he stuck to me, right? And I'm like, he's actually right. Yeah. In hindsight, if you want to win and becoming at the top of your game and, you're feeling discouraged, you feel like things are not going to happen, the one thing that you do have is discipline. Stay disciplined in what you're doing, be consistent in what you're doing. Start somewhere, right? And that starting somewhere is going to have a ripple effect on other things, happening in your life, but you got to start somewhere. So it's no secret. No secrets. I'm Christian, love God, and I take a lot of principles in the Bible and I apply them to my day-to-day life. Okay? When you look at scripture, for example, in Psalm 1, it says that, and my brain works very linear sometimes and very systematically. It says that everything they do will be blessed. Now, if you look at the sentence itself, God in his wisdom could have told us that I'm just going to bless you. But in that sentence, he says that everything that you do will be blessed. So which means you got to do something first in order for it to get blessed. Because the sentence itself derives from do something. Yeah. Do something and that thing will be blessed, right? It's not because you're trying to, manipulate God into blessing you, but the ideal, the principle that stuck to me there is that God cannot bless idle hands. So which means even in your adversity, even in your difficult situation, it's one thing praying for a miracle because God has shown that he does a lot of miracles, but it's also another thing that, where they say that if you move, God will move. So do something and that something can be small. Apply for the job that you think you're not qualified for. Show up to those training sessions that on days where you feel like, today I actually don't even want to pick up any weights.
Yeah.
As I said, get out of the comfort zone of thinking that things are going to fall into my lap and do something, because if anything that I've known about God is that He shows up. He shows up all the time.
Such powerful words, Sibs. I can totally relate. When someone has something to hold on to, it just drives you so much more. It gives you almost to say a compass in life to almost get you to your destination. And you also touched on something very important there, which I'd like to ask you next, in terms of discipline.
Yeah.
I know my sister is a competitive bikini athlete as well, and I have firsthand seen the dedication and the discipline and the work ethic, like you said, that goes into, preparing for something like a competition or something big in life. Could you please take us through the day in the life of Sibusiso Kotelo when it comes to preparing for one of these big competitions, not just in terms of your training, because a lot of people think, okay, he's just training maybe 5 times a week and he's eating a lot of protein and then he gets on stage. But we know there's a mental side to it, we know there's nutritional side to it, and we know obviously a heck of a lot of training that goes into it. So could you take us through that preparation for one of these big competitions?
So fundamentally, it's we call it reverse engineering a process. Okay. So I need to do a show in October. So 16 weeks before the show, or rather, let me say 18 weeks before the show, the coach and I will sit down, my head coach Jack, and we'll plan the training, we'll plan the nutrition timing, we'll plan everything to the T, the water intake, the sauna sessions, and that becomes a very crucial fundamental aspect of understanding that we got to peak correctly for the show. Because a lot of guys, we've seen that they'll do, they'll look okay for the show, and then 2 days later, all of a sudden, they look even better, right? It's just a peaking perspective. So what goes into this is, and I'm glad you've experienced it from your sister, because a lot of people assume training, eating, get to the stage, done. So first things first, when I start my prep, I sit down with my head coach, and then I sit down with my strength and conditioning coach, and then we plan my program. So this is just my training program, okay? How many times I'm going to train with my strength and conditioning coach? How many times I'm going to do my hypertrophy work with Jack? That's one side. And then I sit down with Jack now by himself because he does my nutrition. So we sit down, okay, cool. Meal 1 is this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. These are also the supplements that I'm going to be taking. Which supplements, it gets so intertwined into the food prep, and the timing and the precision gets so, not even monotonous, because that's not even the right word. It gets so pedantic that there's even a pull that I have to take 15 minutes after I eat. So imagine sitting there, and on your last spoonful, you're sitting, and then you're going, and 15 minutes, okay? That's the kind of sheer discipline and, the work level and the ethic that, you gotta, work ethic that you gotta portray. That's one part of things. And then I consulted my sports psychologist. So he plays a very crucial part by the gent called Martin. We then sit down, and I then see him for the first 6 weeks, I'll see him every 2 weeks. As the show, as we get closer to show, because of the mental space that you kind of get into, I then see him like once a week, right? We have an hour session every week, touch base, how's your mental space going? What's going on in your life? Has anything changed? Because a lot of people, as you said, don't know this, but bodybuilding is a mental sport first before it becomes physical. So by the time you guys see the physical manifestation of the physique, you must understand that a lot of mental prep has gone into this, because it's motivating yourself, it's encouraging yourself, it's having that one bad day that you're like, what, today everything in me is telling me to sit at home, not train, not eat, don't do anything, but getting up and doing it and finding your why, your reason why you want to do this, why you still want to continue doing it. Is it a selfish thing? Because it's okay to do certain things in a selfish perspective when indirectly the outcome is to motivate. Or is it a selfish thing? Is it a matter of you understand the duty, and you understand the implied, responsibility that is placed upon you to actually still carry this torch, and let it burn for the next guys to come on board and then carry it over, And it's also that implied responsibility of knowing that, listen, I'm in a sphere of people reaching out and finding you as motivational and inspirational, and then tapping into that why of having that 15-year-old, 14-year-old guy starting to DM and going, listen, dude, I didn't want to train today, but I went to YouTube, I saw you training, and here I am, I just banged out an arm session, thanks. It's finding that why. My why it's been broad, and I'll share two stories with you. Besides being a professional athlete, I'm also a personal trainer. So very, selective clients. I had this client about 3 years ago. Actually, it happened in 2018 when I won my pro card. And I kid you not, when I say that winning my pro card that week felt very small compared to the message this lady sent me. So we started the journey with this lady about 18 months before I won my pro card. And she was 32 at the time. And she sends me a message. Actually, she sent me a picture of herself at the beach, right? This is after I won my pro card, 2 days after, and I'm traveling back into South Africa. So I find this weird. I'm like, why did she send me a picture of herself at the beach? Because most of my progress pictures of my clients stay on my app, right? And next thing I see this paragraph of a message. I kid you not, bro. I was sitting at the airport and I'm literally bawling my eyes out, and I'm like, this is my why. So she sent me a message. She goes, as you know, I'm actually from PE, and it's been 10 years where I've been able to go to the beach and I wore a full bikini without having to feel like I need to cover up the bikini. She didn't have a sarong on. She didn't have those things the ladies wear on top of a bikini because they feel body conscious. It's like the last time I was this confident chilling like this at the beach was when I was 22. So for me, I was like, this is my why, right? Another quick story, 2 years before that, I'm competing in Umtata, and we're doing the King Shaka Classic, I think it was called. And I get on stage. So the stage obviously has stairs on the side. And as an athlete, while you're posing on stage, you can see what's happening on the stairs, but obviously the crowd can't. And I remember seeing this guy, I even remember he was wearing blue jeans, white t-shirts, a very decent looking guy. And he stood there the whole time while I was on stage, like going back and forth. And as soon as I got off stage, he's like, can I take a picture? So I'm like, no, man, sure. And while we're taking a picture, this guy turns to me, he's like, I just needed you to know that today I got a day pass just to come and see your show, because when I told him where I come from, before he told me where he came from, he's like, I told him that I came here and needing help because I got inspired by this guy. So you guys have to allow me to come see this guy on stage. So I'm now standing there, I'm like, I'm curious, where does this guy come from? And he goes, 3 weeks ago, I admitted myself into a drug rehabilitation center. So I'm like, okay. He's like, yeah. And I asked him today if I can specifically come and, see you perform on stage, because watching you do what you do has been really inspirational, that I made the decision by myself to get into a drug rehab center. And I've been there for 3 weeks and the program is going well. Dude, I felt like I needed to give this guy more than just a hug. So I took off my medal because I'd won the show, gave him my trophy. I signed it for him. I was like, dude, if you can put anything in your room, take this. Let this inspire you that someday I want you to come and actually win the show yourself. So he's then subsequently started training, and we kept in touch ever since, And so for me, that's my why.
Yeah.
It's my why because, 3,000 followers on Facebook, 40,000 on Instagram. That means nothing to me in the greater scheme of things, of having one person come to you and say, listen, I changed my entire life and my outlook because I saw you doing what you're doing. That's my why. And that's when, also the mental prep, as I said, comes in. So I see a sports psychologist. I have a chiro as well, that obviously crack my bones into place. I've got a sports massage therapist, so that's it. School on stage is one person, right? It takes a team. I've got a biokinetic assessor, Sarah, who does my rehab stuff, in terms of mobility and flexibility. So it takes a team. I literally have a whole team that, is supporting school. And I'm blessed to have that structure, right? got a supplement brand that's backed me up. You know, I've got a clothing brand that dresses me because I can't fit into normal clothes. But as I said, you know, it takes a mental, and a lot of people don't know about the mental, you know, preparation that goes into this, because in 2015, I was actually diagnosed with anxiety. And then last year, I was actually diagnosed with depression. So those things for me, look, they matter because mental health is such a big thing. But at the same time, I've never used those things, or I don't see them as anything that should be holding me back to doing what I'm doing. If anything, it's fuel for me to keep doing what I'm doing, and despite having those things, you know, being able to manage those things, being able to handle that situation, and you know, going on in life and realizing that it's okay to have these things, but you can overcome. You can get better. You can get on stage and kick ass.
So since at the end of my show, I always like to ask the guest what specific quote or piece of advice resonated within them when they were undertaking their journey. So specifically to you, Sibusiso, what piece of advice or quote resonated within you when you were going through your difficulties, which you still fall back on when you're going through tough times?
So my one is very simple, and it is so simple that I actually have it tattooed on me. It's called "Look at God." Okay. There's two reasons why. The first one is because when everything was going wrong in my life, fundamentally, you look at the situation, and it's so easy for someone to keep looking and be fixated on the situation that you don't realize that your main focus should just be looking at God. You know, you look at God for help. You look at God for, you know, to find the source in which enables you to keep going. Okay. And that has been the journey of most of my life. The second reason is because after Sabu has gotten the pro card, you know, gotten on stage in the pro circuits, has been able or afforded the opportunity to rub shoulders with the best in the world, not even in the country, in the world, in bodybuilding. One of my mentors is Sean Rowland, good friend of mine, Nathan DeAsher, William Barnack. These are the guys that I'm normally, you know, chilling with. And after all of that has happened, I still say, look at God, because I don't want you to look at Sabu as the man, but look at God because God has done this. You know, there's a line that actually came out last year where most of these girls are like, yeah, you see this? God did that. That's literally has been my whole life for the past 6-7 years. You know, my journey, me coming here, me doing this on this level, me being able to do this, it's God. God did that. And whatever happens, yes, be inspired by the man that's Sabu, but be more inspired by what gave Sabu the ability to do that, which is God. So look at God, don't look at me. So that's my whole life, and that's been my whole life motto. So much that I got it on me. Look at God.
So that brings us to the end of the show, guys. Such an amazing story from Sibusiso Kotelo. Yeah, overcoming adversity, overcoming obstacles, holding on to something, pursuing his goals, pursuing his dreams, and he made it to the top, guys. So just to show all of you out there that you can make it, guys. It's not the end for you if you're facing the ropes. It's not the end for you if you're going through a difficult time in your life. Hold on, and you guys will make it. Also, just wanted to say thank you, Sibusiso, for being on this interview today, brother. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're such an amazing, humble human being. Please keep inspiring. Please keep motivating, and keep touching hearts out there, brother.
Thank you so much.
And to all the viewers out there, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please give it a subscribe. Please share it with all your friends, guys. Click the little bell. It will notify you when I have a new video. And always remember, guys, keep high.